Trump supporters who have bought Donald Trump's lies about widespread voter fraud, hook, line, and sinker are now sending death threats to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and his family. And it's apparently gotten so bad that he felt the need to hold a press conference about it and basically talk about how incredibly ridiculous all of this is. And keep in mind, I mean, he's a Trump loyalist. It's just that he can't just go along with accusations of voter fraud when there's no evidence of voter fraud. So he said this: it has gotten ridiculous, from death threats, claims of bribes from China, Jesus, the social media posts that my children are getting. We have the no crying in politics rule in the Kemp house. It's unbearable. But this is stuff that if I said it, I would be taken to the woodshed and would never see the light of day. So Kemp said that his daughter Lucy in particular has been receiving threatening messages about the recent death of her boyfriend. Like it's pretty serious stuff. Her 20-year-old boyfriend Harrison Deal died earlier this month in a traffic accident. Deal also worked as an aide for Kelly Loeffler and had previously interned with Purdue. So his daughter is going through a tough time, understandably so, and she's not in politics. Like she's not. Why is she being attacked? Why is his family being attacked? He also said this needs to stop. People need to deal with facts. We'll give them to them. And if everybody or if anybody has an issue with something I've done, they can come to me and I will talk to them about it. They don't need to bother my wife and my children or another elected official's wife and children. I assure you, I can handle myself if they're brave enough.
Yeah, it's getting tough, guy. Can I go really fast? Can I go real fast? Okay.
Yeah.
So Brian Kemp, Governor Brian Kemp of the lovely state of Georgia, he's getting these death threats unfairly, wrongfully. No one should ever get death threats. Let's just start at that point right there. Especially over doing the right thing. So this is Brian Kemp in the party who ran for governor, who ran on the I'm the politically incorrect conservative. I'm gonna do ads with guns. I'm gonna do ads with explosions in the background. I'm gonna act like there's a kid here trying to date my daughter and I'm gonna point a gun in his general direction unless he agrees with me. All those things, you pump up your base because you think this is a game. But then you could complain about libs that send me mean tweets. And sure, I'm sure some libs also carry out some of these death threats as well when things get serious. And that's wrong too. But now when you have to deal with conservatives doling out death threats over something that's literally just made up out of thin air, that's a different kind of frustration because that's what you've always done. The monster has turned on the owner. Your dog that you've trained to bite people is now biting you. So what's going on? He shouldn't have to deal with this, but I wish there was a moment of clarity, a moment of recognition about what you've done, what you participate in, thinking it's just a fun political game to get myself in office. The people that you said, grab your guns and don't let them tell you no different. Once they listened, and now you're the different. And now they're shooting, they're talking about shooting you. They're talking about your daughter and this horrific thing he went through with her boyfriend. I feel bad for his whole family for going through this. But sometimes you have to look back at yourself. If you put yourself in this position, sometimes you have to say, man, what have I done to myself? I may have to rethink the way I carry myself in public because this isn't a game anymore. They're threatening you now. Now you're serious about it. Guns were a joke before. Now it's real.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's such a great point. And I remember in the beginning of the Trump presidency, I think I'm a little jaded now and I lost whatever naivete I had, but like what was jarring was just like the lack of empathy by Trump, Republican lawmakers who supported Trump, and more importantly, people who voted for Trump. Like just this lack of empathy, the inability to put themselves in, someone else's shoes. And I think that's what we're seeing here with Kemp. People like Kemp embolden someone like Donald Trump. They encourage someone like Donald Trump who had no problem putting other people's lives at risk by, going after them on social media, lying about them on social media. They had no problem with any of that. Was Brian Kemp mortified over what happened to Heather Heyer, who was one of the counter protesters in Charlottesville, who was run over by a white supremacist? I mean, this administration started with violence. that was encouraged by Donald Trump, and Kemp just sat by. Not only sat by, he empowered it and celebrated it in his campaign ads. So yeah, I think you make a really good point.
If we compare Democratic voters to Republican voters here, so Brian Kemp essentially won an election with racially motivated voter suppression. Democrats didn't do any of this. This is Republican voters that are, I guess, mostly Trump voters, but Republican voters that are the ones pushing the envelope here in terms of these threats, in terms of his family. It really, it shows you the different approaches here when you look at these two groups of people, Democrats and Republicans. And obviously there's a lot of variation within both of those groups. But when you see that this is a man who did horrible things as governor and horrible things to win an election, and you don't see that kind of pushback from Democratic voters, and there shouldn't be those kind of threats from Democratic voters, but he gets that from his own base. I feel bad for him, but as you guys said, he brought this on himself. And while I feel bad for him, you can't expect anything different from this voting base.
Yeah, and even though he's calling out the bullies and he's being a tough guy, one thing that he's not doing is calling Donald Trump out for encouraging this kind of behavior. So he says, as far as I know, my relationship with the president is fine. I know he's frustrated, and I've disagreed on things with him before. Look, at the end of the day, I got to follow the laws and the Constitution of this state. And so it doesn't, but this so-called law and order president isn't actually interested in law and order. He's not actually interested in the Constitution. As we know from now 4 years of this awful presidency, Donald Trump looks out for himself, and he will turn on his most loyal supporters, the biggest bootlickers in the country, immediately, as soon as he doesn't get exactly what he wants when he wants it. And that's what's happened in this case. And I will say, look, I don't know what I would lose my mind if someone came after my family, right? And every once in a while, someone will try, and I'm just like, you wanna come at me? I'm the public figure here, right? You have issues with me, you wanna threaten me, cool. But you slip and slide into my husband's DMs or send threats to anyone in my family. I don't know how he has remained calm. It's just not an easy situation to deal with. Having your loved ones have to suffer the consequences of what you do for a living is just, it's unacceptable.
It's comfortable. It's comfortable when you're standing behind the pack of people that are threatening and toting their guns. You're comfortable when you're standing behind them, but when you're in front of them, it's a whole different situation. Now you have to start taking things seriously. And just you pointed out how Kemp said, he thinks everything's fine with Trump, and he throws in this little phrase, I've disagreed with the president in the past. We're gonna start keeping a running list of Republicans who now, after Trump has lost re-election, have now want to tell us how much they've disagreed with him in the past. There was a few others. There was some senators, maybe some congressmen who I really need to start writing them down, because I've heard 4 or 5 now. I want to make sure everyone knows. Hey, I disagree with the president. When have you disagreed with the president? Because there's been plenty of chances to disagree with the president, and you've been either said nothing or you said, well, the president has every right to do these ridiculous things, or the disagreeing line has been, oh, I would tell him maybe to change his tone. That's the level of disagreement we've gotten from these guys.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.